I gotta tell you. The old Mr. Potato Head thing coming up. Mining in California. Uh, you want to go electric cars? You're gonna see deep dark holes all in California. We'll show you that how that works. The Equality Act. Back to the Mr. Potato. This stuff all just COVID. Uh, all sorts of stuff. It just seems like we get crazier and crazier and crazier every day. Big CPAC conference, a big American Conservative Union was that. Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, assembly member from Florida, which is a stand-up guy. Josh Hawley from Missouri, Senator. Dan Bongino, we all had them on. We didn't do the whole thing, because they're going to be going all today. But we will, and I think... Tune in Sunday about, I think he's going to come on about 12:30 a Sunday afternoon or sometime in there. Number 45, President Donald J. Trump will make his first public appearance since being out of the president's office, and hopefully we'll cover that and bring you his speech because hopefully it will be, once Trump gets on a roll, there's hardly any stopping him, and who knows where he'll go with any fraud or he's been talking about, because we really need to get that issue done and dealt with, as at least in my mind on that. I wish we would have had Eddie on to do this one. Him at inews.com, media is 97, his site. Even as you see up there on that, put number 4 up. I don't even know how to title this story. So you see the cops out there and you see some debris out that. If you look right in the middle of the two right by the curb, that whatever it is on fire, appears to be homeless, whatever. You see the cart, the whole enchilada on that. We'll just let... It's the crazy guy with the lazy eye. We're doing that. Just run the volume down a little bit on that. The aforementioned, I guess it was the property of this Mr. It. This guy, look at the picture, Jesse. Is this a dude? Let's roll up to the, as he's focused up. It's hard to tell in that picture. See if we can we're getting him a little more close up on it. Look at the arms on that. Well, she's in air. It's in a dress. Yes. I mean, look at the build on this guy. That here's a more close up on it, going across. There's a better shot of it, of whoever this is. There's talking to the police, and you can't hear much of what's going on. I think Eddie's too far away from it. You hear a little bit of the conversation going back and forth. Pretty soon the fire... So you can see it smoking a little bit, still whatever's in the bag. So, there you go. We're going to get a close-up. The fire department should be showing up here pretty soon. Ah, yes. Here's the fire department. Fire department comes out. Now, the cops usually have fire extinguishers and stuff. I mean, why couldn't they just come out and hit the fire extinguisher? It obviously isn't a 4-alarm fire going on out here. But the truck shows up with the deal, and you see what that... Now she's picking up it's picking up some of the debris of that. Here you go. Yeah, here's the cop. All this to put out a very small fire on that. Check this out, Jesse, on the deal. We got the fire department with the hose and everything to put out whatever little bit of this is. I'm gonna get to the little, because Eddie finally catches up with.
You see my nails are still there in my eyelid.
Okay, well, that's a little bit. Let's back it up a little bit. Ah, here we go. Okay. So Eddie finally gets her to come over. Him, her, it. Yes.
You okay?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm fine.
So what happened?
I just was attacked by 3 people, but they got their ass whooped down.
You tore her ass up?
I tore all 3 of their asses up. You see my nails are all still done, my eyelashes are still on. I still look good. But
I'm going to bleep it there because it gets really racy. And put the link in there in case anybody wants to check out the rest of it, of that. Now look at, there's a good close up. Now, does that look like a woman or is that a guy? Jesse.
I'm not Jesse.
Oh man, you got to hear the rest of the clip. There's the cops picking up the last of the whatever debris that was coming up. I mean, it beats the crap out of 3 guys who were lighting this stuff on fire or whatever's coming on that. Yeah, right. Again, I don't know what the heck's bring me back up, but I don't know what the heck's going on back up there in Hemet. But man, I thought some of the ones we played earlier with Eddie were on the strange side. Man, that one takes the cake. Hopefully we'll have him in next week and he can explain because he was on the scene on this thing. I mean, man, I don't know what they're, well, it would be explained. They got to be, even if you were on weed, you wouldn't be doing stuff like that. You got to be, I mean, I don't know. Just normal people would not be doing stuff like that. Or if you really want a deal, go to put there. I hope you put the link in the deal. Put the link in there and go to the end of it. And it's got the F word and all that other stuff, and sexual content is talked about in the whole thing. So you got a warning before you click on the video of that. But go to that. I mean, it. Like Eddie said, I mean, the things are happening in Hemet, and most of them are not good of that. And it goes to the point of why we're allowing this. I mean, we had the deal on, we had Joel Grover's report yesterday where he was on Channel 4, where our freeways are now the biggest garbage dumps in California. And they were trying to blame it on COVID and this and that. Well, they haven't cleaned these places up in 19, and nobody heard of COVID-19 in those particular times. But it goes to the broader point of we're letting this happen in society. And it's going to wind up killing us. You just can't have this stuff going on like that. You just can't have people. It's a health hazard. But the garbage dumps along the side, you can go down through Riverside, Moreno Valley, look on the sides of the road and the freeways and everything else. I mean, it's all over Southern California. We've allowed this stuff to happen. And if we don't get a handle on this stuff, it's going to continue to get worse. I mean, there was probably a couple of flaws in the 3 strikes laws that needed to be worked out. But the 3 strikes laws were mainly, it didn't matter what. I mean, they could go in, on the 3rd time you were arrested, boom, you're in jail for life. And we didn't, when we instituted the 3 strikes law, what was it, about 2010 or so, I believe, or maybe it was even earlier than that. When we instituted it, you didn't see all this homeless stuff and hypodermic needles in the road and trash all over the place and them running the show or telling us and creating public health hazards for us. When they're crapping and pissing in the street and again throwing their drug needles in and doing this kind of stuff and creating hazards, I don't know about what all these deals are coming on, or these court rulings that say that they are able to do this. But this is absolutely ridiculous of something going on. I guess I guess we got a phone caller on the line. Who's on there?
Hey, Roy, it's Dwayne. How you doing?
Oh, how you doing? I don't know if you watched that. Did you watch the video of the the it or whatever guy, girl, whatever that was on the Hemet deal that I just played?
That's what we used to refer to as a gorilla with arms. And please, it has nothing to do with race
races.
at
Yes.
all. I want to preface it.
Yes.
Okay? But when somebody is that ugly, okay...
Or they're just that build. Let's just say the build. You can see in the arms and the legs. Women just aren't built like
kidding.
that.
I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's not a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy looked like he was probably a retired linebacker from the NFL.
He wasn't big, but I mean, I'd say he was probably about 6'2", I'd say about 180. Whatever
He's not what we would call petite.
No,
that's
he was.
certainly.
You could tell this is. I mean, he had. Let's see, without looking at the private parts. I mean, he had the arms, the legs, the build, even without the makeup on there, the facial structure of a male.
Yes. Yes, and did not make for a attractive-looking female. Hence why I use the term gorilla. And I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be politically correct. If somebody takes offense to that, tough. I didn't mean it in an offensive way. It is, or even in a pejorative sense.
No, you're
However,
talking about the physical
it is what
structure.
it is. I'm making an observation.
Right. It's the physical structure of that. It's a big muscular, and if female's saying, well, yeah, I beat the crap out of 3 or 4, 3 guys that were doing this, yada, yada, yada. Well, I mean, unless they were 12 years old or something, okay, that, your story, you got to hear the rest of it as it goes on. I mean, to really hear how whacked out, and I mean, even Eddie George, he's had all these things on. We played his videos and stuff. We had him on Wednesday with some of the ones, and I mean, like he said, I don't even know how to title this one. I mean, this is getting so bizarre on the scene. But it's to the broader point of that, and this is what I was getting to with it. I mean, we are allowing this to happen in society. This is becoming the norm. The
it's because we're what is going on is a major attempt that is somewhat successful because it's getting pushed through the entertainment industry. But there is an attempt from the alt-left to muddy the waters and blur sexuality and gender so they can have this fluid gender nonsense. And they're getting pushback. Now, I did hear coming on the way home, and I know you know about the Mr. Potato Head thing. Apparently, there has been significant pushback to Hasbro, and they've rescinded their fluid gender potato and will still issue Mr. and Mrs. Potato respectively.
Hold on a second. I got to read this because this will segue right in. This is give me number 4, please. This is from Hasbro on Twitter. Hold that tot, T-O-T. Your main spud, Mr. Potato Head, isn't going anywhere. Well, it was announced today that the Potato Head brand name and logo are dropping the Mr. I'm proud to confirm that Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head aren't going anywhere and will remain Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. Okay, so my first take on this is this sounded like Hasbro. A possibility. Hasbro was doing this to capitalize on this, trying to get some publicity. The second point, and as I remember Mr. Potato Head, because this came out back in the time when I was a kid, there was a difference in the color of the Mr. and Mrs., but the shape and all the parts interchanged. So my first thought was, okay, we've just eliminated the first transgender doll, toy, whatever it was called at the time on that when they came out with this pronouncement. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't think there was any significant transgenderism in the 60s in regards to the potato faction. However,
Yeah, but you could take the parts back and forth and put them on each one, or you'd make one each one. They were the same as I remember it. They, the nose and the bottom part and the ears, and you could switch them back and forth. They were the same. So I mean, it was the original transgender or switching genders doll, because you could make Mr., Mrs., or Mr., Mrs. And now we're now all of a sudden that's banned. So they're banning transgender dolls. What do we do now?
I don't know why everybody is so afraid of gender, and why they think that we have to have an over-representation of all the confused individuals out there, which in the last thing I saw, and it was oh gosh, can't remember who did the poll, but it was like a Harvard poll. It wasn't Harvard. 1 in 6 teenagers now has gender identity issues and does not self-identify with the parts they were born with. Well, that's confusion from their surroundings and from their lack of parentage to guide them in the proper area, which would be in front of a mirror. These are the male parts, these are the female parts, that's what you are.
I want to go to that, pick up on that, because I think it was North Dakota, and we're going to talk, there was one thing I had on my radar screen because we were talking about, North Dakota passed a law, or it's going through the legislature. In sports, in schools or whatever, you have to compete in the division or the sex that you were born with. So if you were born a male, you have to play on the boys' team, and if you are a girl, you have to play on the girls' team, no matter what, no matter what you're identifying to. And this is in USA Today. I want to read this one. Bring me up number 4, please. This is an editorial on that. Not a fair fight. Our athlete daughters should not have to compete with transgender women. The Equality Act would jeopardize opportunities and perhaps even safety for many female athletes. It would make the playing field more unequal than ever. Frank Muir and Terry Schelling. I just want to read a couple more off of this, if I can get rid of the idiotic ads.
Right. So
go ahead.
The unintended consequences of all of this gender fluidity and, hatred of white males and everything white backfired a little bit with this. Again, unintended consequences are that if you're going to embrace gender fluidity and cross-genderism, and I get to pick whatever I want for myself this moment, this day, this is going to happen. So it just reinforces the fact that there are differences between the sexes. Those should be embraced, identified logically. And for those people that are confused, we should help them out of their confusion.
Well, even of that, even to getting to back and forth of that, it's not even part of that. Here's what, and I think there was one where, the MMA fighter where one, was a male, got severely injured or that. They're on top of the girls who, are we going to repeal Title IX of the NCCA college sports? That was the whole thing we went through there, I think, in the 70s or 80s. Oh, the women's teams weren't getting as much money because the men's team, everybody paid attention to the men's college football, da-da-da. So they had to divert resources over there to the women's team, fine, so they could have that and equality and all that. Well, now all the men can go play on the girls' team, and now the girls who go through high school or whatever or try and get a scholarship are bumped out of those spots, because here's maybe a guy that was like in that Hemet video, guy that was born a man or a male, not born a male, is now competing on the girls' team, and because he couldn't get on the B team or the track team on high school or whatever, now he's setting world records on the girls' team, and they're not getting the scholarships under Title IX, which was what this was all about. This is how. I mean, I don't even know how Bizarro World doesn't even describe this.
Well, and this is precisely what happened with the demise of, and what got the Boy Scouts in trouble. going back over 100 years, the Boy Scouts are a long, very old, somewhat traditional male role, father-son bonding kind of thing. I was a Boy Scout and enjoyed it. There were no girls in the Boy Scouts at that time. There were
let me ask you
Girl
this:
Scouts.
Did you? Hang on. Did you ever think of, well, you know what? I think I'm going to scrap this whole Boy Scouts thing. I think I'm going to go join the Girl Scouts.
Well, they did smell better than we did. So that was a plus. But no, I didn't. And along came a lawsuit that said that they had to allow gay scoutmasters in amongst little boys. They lost this case. Then we get fast forward 20 years to they now have to merge with the Girl Scouts because it's unfair that the Boy Scouts have more stuff and more resources, essentially, i.e. money, than the Girl Scouts. Well, work harder. Now, we now know, fast forward another couple of years, here we are, the Boy Scouts have filed bankruptcy and they're upside down. Why? Because they have had their butts sued off because of all of the child molestation that has gone on from, are you ready for this? The gay scoutmasters that they were forced to accept by some turd, judge somewhere.
And
so they created the problem ensued, and who paid for it ultimately? The little boys who were molested, and the entire scout theme, everything to do with Boy Scouts has been watered down.
And on top of that, and that's what I get back to of that, and the bad part of this 1964 civil rights deal, where they said you no longer, really they ruled you really no longer have private property rights or private organizations on that, when you could force people to do, when you have a private organization for whatever, you should be allowed to, as long as you're not hurting anybody else or going out of your way to make anybody else join your organization, you should be able to determine who, what, or why your organization has. It's just like they thought, okay, let's go back to the Title IX and the college sports. Oh, the boys are getting too much, they get all the money, they get all this, da-da-da-da-da, we don't get hardly anything, da-da-da-da, that's not fair, da-da-da. So they came up with Title IX, da-da-da. Now we have this whole thing. Now the boys are playing on the girls' team because they couldn't make that. But hell, there's a lot of money and stuff over there, and maybe I could be da-da-da, maybe I can get a shoe contract or something on this for doing or whatever on that, and we hijacked the whole thing. It goes back to the same thing. No matter what you believe, you could believe one iota or the other or that. If you want to expose your kids to some this, that should be, whichever way, it should be your choice. What they're making is they're taking away your choice. And that's where when you hijack this process, you hijack parents' responsibility for raising their kids how they see fit, as long as they're not abusing them. If they want to raise them with values that say X, Y, and Z, that should, and when you become an adult, you can follow along those. You can say the hell with that and live your life as you want. That's the way we should be doing it. But when you try to manipulate the system, when you try to manipulate a system or Mother Nature or economies or wars or anything else, this is what ultimately, when you try and violate the natural laws, that's where you get into trouble.
No, and I agree. Interestingly enough, do you think that if a lawsuit was brought by the Boy Scouts of America against the Girl Scouts of America that they had to allow inclusion of boys to join, do you think that would have gone anywhere?
Well, you hear the screaming, from the high heavens of that. And yeah, it's the double standard of that we put ourselves through on all this other stuff because it wasn't about that. It's a private organization. Now, I think in certain extensions they have ruled, like you want to have the men's all golf club. That was, that's allowed to some extent. But I mean, to me, it should be to anything. If I want to open a restaurant or a gas station or anything else, and I wanted to, I don't want to serve people named Roy. Well, you know what? I just ain't going to go in your place. Why do I have a right to come into your restaurant or your gas station and demand that you fill up my tank or serve me a meal? Or like the deal with baking a cake in Colorado where the baker said it's against my, beliefs, religion, whatever. I don't want to bake a cake that whatever with the gay theme or whatever was on it. And then they wind up suing of that. You know what? Get fine. They're not the only cake maker in the freaking world. Or make it yourself or figure it out. But when it's the law of unintended consequences, let me get it out, or the slippery slope we go down, you may think it's cool that you're forcing them to do something, but you know what? Those same rules are going to be turned against you or something you want in a future date when you and that's what my overall point is when you let these precedents happen and stuff that should not.
No, and it shouldn't. But we took logic and reason out of this.
Yes.
And allowed a fringe group to basically have all of the say-so and how this comes down. And we are going to be reaping the whirlwind of stupidity with this. I mean, this is not going to end here. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this. And you're going to see a lot more. Somehow, what they're going to do is you watch. They're going to reclassify all sports as gender fluid, gender neutral, and they'll go by weight class or some idiocy like that. Do you want to watch junior tackle football on Sunday?
About a minute.
Is that what you want to bet? You want to have a bunch of 120-pounders running around? I mean, that might be exciting for about 10 minutes. But let's face it, that's not going to garner the advertising revenues or the Joe Six-Pack, to watch that kind of stuff because they're going to get bored really quick.
There you go. We're right here at the bottom of the break, so I got to cut you loose here, Dwayne, real quick. So thanks for calling in. We'll do it again next week.
Alrighty, take care.
You got it. No, it is, and we're about ready to join KMET here in a minute or two. But yeah, I have no. If you want to join whatever philosophy is, you want to change operation, gay, straight, in between, Trumples or whatever, like we heard in the House of Representatives, fine. As long as I'm not paying for it, you're not on my side of the fence. Do what you want on your side, but don't force your views, your way of life, your thinking on somebody else. That's where we get into trouble. And that's, we've done it on all that. Again, no matter, like I say about government, no matter how well-intentioned, 98.7% of their proposals wind up in graft
30 seconds.
And that's the same thing. Trying to mandate a perfect Ozzie and Harriet world is going to wind up in disaster because you're trying to violate the natural laws of whatever you want to believe. And that's where we get into trouble.
All right, guys, here we go. 10 seconds.
That's OEMSupplyKing.com.
OEM Supply King. We got it!
IE Newswire Daily is on the air. The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM airwaves, joining our vast video audience on Newswire, on Facebook, Twitch, and back on YouTube. We just did that to irritate them so they could get a big charge, kicking us back off for some other stupid reason, for whatever they come up with. And we talked about it a little bit with Dwayne called in, but we ran the, you think the videos coming out of Hemet, California, the ones that Eddie George have been posting on that, go back and look. Go to IE Newswire on the aforementioned Twitch, Facebook, and or YouTube, or go to him at iNews on there if you can find it, but it'll be on the show. It's right up on the top of that. Click on there. Absolutely astounding video. Even the crazy guy with the lazy eye, Eddie George, says, I don't even know how to title this one. And that's a lot coming from a guy like Eddie George on that. You got to watch it, especially go to the end of it. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And not to disparage anyone or so, and we had a pretty frank discussion about what was going on in there. But no, it's what's happening in our society. We're allowing people to pile their trash up in the streets, sleep in there, creating health hazards. Dope needles, condoms, pissing and crapping in the sidewalks in the street. Not to mention COVID or anything else. You keep allowing this to go on. Here, go back to the Spanish flu or bubonic plagues or any society that doesn't have, a modern sewer system or a way to dispose of waste. Like they said, what the number one reason why disease and stuff does not spread, and we beat most of them, is not from doctors or vaccines or science or anything else. It's your plumber. Being able to get rid of waste materials or making you very, very, very sick at best at some point is the number one, by far, reason why we in modern society have ducked many, many, many of the Spanish flu plague that killed 75 million people, that spread like crazy. And we're going crazy over a COVID deal, which even in the United States, by the CDC's numbers, only 30,000 have died just of COVID only, using their 6% number that they came up with. Let's just use the 500,000 number they're shooting out right now. It means only 30,000 in the United States have died of COVID only. Everyone, the other 470 plus thousand of them, all died of something else or had another condition, like the guy that got hit by the 18-wheeler and tested positive. His remains tested positive for COVID-19. On his death certificate, they marked died of COVID. That wasn't the reason why he died. He died because he got squished by an 18-wheeler. Not to make light of that, but I mean, the reality is, if, he had a tragic, wrong spot at the wrong time, was unfortunately run over by an 18-wheeler, and that was the cause of death. The cause of death was not COVID. This is how they can shut down your schools, how they can make you wear a mask, how they can drive you crazy, make you hate each other. They have to strip you of humanity. They got to get you down to the Stockholm syndrome where you're dependent on your captor. And that's a sad tale of what we've come down to in our society today. We went through that. I just wanted to flip this one up on the screen here quickly. If we can get rid of it. There we go. We had a whistleblower Under Armour mandated that white employees watch anti-white diversity training videos. The clothing company allegedly forced its white employees to participate in a program that asked them to consider ways in which they might be racist. These reports are coming on too far and too many, and like every day you're seeing this. This is how they do. They're going to dehumanize you, cut you down with any way they know possible. I said it before, the war on the straight white male, SWM. Now it's just war against white, whatever that means. Remember it started with, you could only be racist if you were white. And then it's started progressing, and we let it go. Or we did it in the same because we were scared or this or that, and we let it go, and now we're winding up with this. The Mr. Potato Head thing, on and on and on and on we go of that. It's mind-boggling. And it's kind of sad how quickly these things can subside and come into of all this stuff. And which I want to kind of get into a little bit with Donald Trump making his big first appearance. But Donald Trump Jr., I was really impressed. He was good. I was really impressed with Senator Josh Hawley and Assemblymember Matt Gaetz, who got absolutely trashed over them standing up for what they believed in and their constituents wanted, and probably 75 million people that voted for, at least, that voted for Donald J. Trump wanted. And they stood up at CPAC and said, we will do it. We will do it again because we're standing for freedom and liberty and fairness.
I think that they have hit a nerve, and I think that now comes you're in the great fight for control. So you've got the Mitch McConnell side and the establishment side. You've got the Trump side, which is the completely anti-establishment side. You've got it was a good move, excellent move. He didn't tell Kamala Harris about it. Better move. Who the hell knows who she'd tell? But you've got this divisiveness, and in fact, I had a long conversation today about how do we win the governorship in California, because we're at 1,825,000 signatures yesterday. By the end of the weekend, it'll be about 1,950,000, maybe even 2 million. And now we've got to unite and get one candidate out there who can win, and let the Democrats fracture, because if they run 5 people, they split the Democrat vote 5 ways. If we run 1 or 2, we split it 1 or 2 ways on the Republican side. 26% in the recall will get you the governor's chair. 26%. Now, who's going to be the smartest? Is it going to be the Democrats or the Republicans? So far, neither wins. Neither. Because they're both going to sit there and look at a cavalry charge. But the smartest one is going to run 1 or none. And that's how you win.
We talked about this yesterday with activist Sarah Stevens from the Temecula Valley area on that. It's this exact same point. And I've argued this, so that, the Republicans especially have argued, they always bitch and whine about Prop 14 and Top 2 and all this other stuff. And I've said, you can gripe about it all you want, or mail-in ballots or ballot harvesting. That's what the law is. You got to play the game on the rules that are there, not what you wish. And you're exactly right. Don't worry about what the Democrats or the left or the far left are doing. Let's pick this time one candidate who's got a shot to win this thing. And like you say, I'd say like 30% or more is going to probably win this thing. And let's get behind him, and we're facing bigger odds than we did in 2003 maybe a little harder.
Entirely improv. You had Arnold out there, okay, you had name wreck.
Right.
And he had one absolutely miserable opponent who's never been heard from since from the Democrat side. All right, I had a long talk with Del Vaccaro today, and there's a school of thought that the Democrats will not run anybody. I disagree. I think they're going to run 4 or 5 people, or be really smart and run one strong person. Okay, because the rank and file is starting to move away from Newsom. Now, his entrenched group of people are doing what they can, either in the legislature or out in the street, to keep him in the chair.
Right.
And they're going to try to have all kinds of signature protests and whatever chess moves they can make. I don't think it'll be good enough. When you're sitting at 2.1 million signatures, it's going to be really hard to say that 600,000 and change of them are liars. That's going to be tough. So when it comes down to it, then they have to either have a candidate, and if they wait, that candidate's not going to have any money and have very little time to campaign, or they're going to hope that Newsom wins and doesn't get recalled. Well, as I have taught many, many, many athletes, hope in one hand and a bag of crap in the other hand are equal. So go out and do it. And that's what I think that we're doing with the Republican side, but we've got to limit them down to a very strong candidate. My candidate would be a female who's been in office, who might have military background, who has kids, could have Hispanic background, not that important, but it would be nice, and a record of success on conservative issues. Because if you get 4 or 5 Republicans in there, or 3 or whatever, they're going to start going to the middle, milquetoast, typical, whiny, Republican side. We need a good fiscal conservative who can stand on the record and look at the waste that's going on in California.
I can think of one candidate that might meet your criteria. I think she was a council member in Lake Elsinore, assembly member and senator, but that's probably a discussion for a different day. But
it probably is, and I've decided not to run too. So anyway, you're right, and I think that discussion is going to be had. Another discussion is going to be had next week about exactly the topic or the person you mentioned.
And that's what I'm saying is it, and it really, again, it's not that anybody, there's a lot of people that are qualified to do the job and could straighten out California. It's about
except the guy in the chair.
Yeah. I said not everybody. I said there are lots of them. But I mean, this is it. I mean, we got to get to the. It can be like I say. You can have all the great ideas you want if you don't communicate them. It's like in politics. You can have all the great ideas, policies. If you don't win, they don't mean nothing.
Right. Right. And where we've got to go, and I think one of the things the Republicans need to do, and they may not because they're partially at fault, is the $1 trillion plus pension debt in California. I'll bet you 90% or better of the Californians do not know that their state is in hock over $1 trillion, coming up on $2 trillion. They have no way to pay. There's no way to pay it. And it's to the public service unions.
Exactly. I mean, we had big issues in California along with the charts. On top of that, already a bad situation we were sitting in is now like it's 6 times worse. I mean, the story. No matter who, how, or what we do, it's going to be a tough road to hoe, no matter what.
Yeah, and the best way to get your arms around this is stop the ridiculous spending, like the train to nowhere. There's a good example of it. When the guy who's running the maglev train makes more than the guy who's running Amtrak, and California's train doesn't have a foot of track laid, something's really wrong.
I don't know. Did you catch the story this week that broke? The company that was supposed to be going to lay the track or starting to lay the track, it said, we come in with a low bid. We can do all this. It's a foreign company or something. We can do this much better, yada, yada. We're over $1 billion, almost 60%, almost $1 billion, I think $800 million in cost overruns and climbing.
It was $800 million. And, of course, and that's, you look at when these bids come, you look at this and go, this is a bunch of crap. All right, there's no way this can happen if you've ever built anything. All right, there's just no way. And, of course, California, with their utterly ridiculous system, gets caught in that trap all the time. So how often do you hear about a bid, and there's a cost overrun? Well, look, I got news for you. I'm delaying building a new building because the cost of steel and the cost of lumber has gone through the roof, double and triple. And so I just told Subaru, I'm not building me a new building till the costs come down. Now we're finishing the new Toyota store. It'll be open May 15th. But the guys are doing a great job out of the old location. And so May 15th, we move into one. Somewhere in the next 6 months, a year, costs will come back down. And then we'll go like hell to build the new Subaru store. But you can't do it when you're looking at a 50% increase in materials.
50%. I mean,
easily.
I was
maybe
shocked.
100.
I went into the Home Depot because I needed about a dozen 2x4s, and I mean it wasn't that long ago that I remember. I mean, probably the last time I actually went and bought them, they were 98 cents a piece. $4.47 for a 2x4 by 92-inch wall stud. I had to look at it for 10 minutes to make sure I wasn't looking at the wrong spot, or that was actually the price.
Wow. It's just astounding. And again, we talk about this all the time, where California voters see a D and they vote for the Democrat. Now, maybe not the listeners who listen to your show, but a ton of them see D and they go there. And well, why did you vote Democrat? Oh, my mom and dad were Democrats. That's the one where I just want to deck the guy. So that is amazing to me, that you do not have the peripheral vision to see what's going on in a state that used to be the greatest state in the nation, and now it's on its heels and against the ropes and getting hit really hard. But they'll just ride that down into the toilet where it is going right now.
I've seen some of the polling of that. Let's not even discount. Let's say the two. Let's just stipulate for talking points. 2020 election, no fraud, no nothing, just the numbers that we have. Trump gained in Los Angeles County, Imperial County, which is right down east of San Diego, right on the border. Well, San Diego too, but he made tremendous double-digit gains in Los Angeles County, Imperial County, Pinal County, all the counties all down the border, which are largely, like 60 and 70% Hispanic, Native, or surname voters. He picked up double digits in these areas where these problems are, and Biden's one of his first acts was not to build the wall. These are the people that benefited from stopping illegal immigration. We're making the lower income people had more job growth in the Trump administration than I think in history, because we weren't flooding the market with cheap labor.
Well, I think one of the encouraging things is there's a great little restaurant in San Bernardino, the Mexico Cafe, and the owner's out there collecting signatures, and tremendous number of Hispanics have jumped on, and I think some of the other restaurants have jumped on with her. And you're sitting there, and we've talked about it probably in the past. It's like, wait a minute, this is a tectonic change. But I was doing a talk one day years ago in San Bernardino at one of the parks, Paris Hill, I think. And I'm walking through, and of course I'm the enemy. And some construction guy came up to me, Hispanic guy, second generation, and he said, "I can't say much, but I want you to know we're with you." And I found that encouraging 15 years ago, and it continues to grow in our favor. And look, pro-family, right? Mostly Catholic, hardworking, kids in school. You can go unfortunately, in a lot of cases, 3 generations in one house, which created a lot of health issues. But these people are perfect Republicans, and they love this country. They are multi-generational here, or even one generation here. Well, they're here not because you got half of Nicaragua walking up here. I don't see anybody walking to Nicaragua, do you?
Yeah.
And so it is just something, and Trump is the guy who penetrated that market, that political market for the Republicans. And, of course, the Republicans are trying to shoot themselves in the foot. This is going to be kind of fun to watch.
Oh, definitely it is, all across the board on that. We got about a minute left. I'll let you wrap it up.
Just real quick, I think that if you have not signed a recall petition, please go find one and sign it, all right? Do it the way they want, because the opposition will try to exclude your signature. Go out and get it done, and then what we've got to do, once we've hit the number, We've got to sit down. The election could be July, could be August. We've got to come up with a very, very, very strong candidate who can counter what the Democrats are going to do. And we're still not 100%. We're arguing about what the Dems are going to do, right? But we don't need a dozen Republicans riding the horse into the battle. We need one. And that's what we've got to figure out as a party so that we can get the governor's chair and the power that goes with it.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for being on. We'll do it again real soon.
Always a pleasure. Talk to y'all. Bye-bye.
You got it. That was Cliff Cummings, Toyota San Bernardino. San Bernardino Subarus, the newest one, San Bernardino of Nissan, and I-10 Toyota out in Indio, the vast Cummings group of dealerships all around Southern California. And I couldn't, again, he's spot on. If we foul this thing up this time, it's going to be it's going to be beyond over in California. So we can't screw this one up. We can't be fighting amongst each other. We got to be realistic. I know everybody wants to be the superstar, the main one, thinks they got it, but this time it's got to be all hands on deck with a cohesive strategy to win. And to say that, but we've got to have that on that. And Cliff posted something on with the social media networks not too long ago. He says, if you hang around with 5 millionaires, you'll become the 6. If you hang around with 5 drug dealers, and that's very true. It's who you choose. You have the choice of who, what, and why, and how you do it. It goes back to the old saying, if you lie down with dogs, you're going to get fleas. And there's that. I don't know where it is. Flip me up number 4, please. Recently, Cliff posted that on that. Probably somewhere. You don't doubt when Roy said, well, I missed it by, well, it did hit $5 a gallon before. But I said, not only $5 a gallon when we started this whole climate change stuff in California, $5 a gallon in California. And I said, when you elected Joe Biden president, whether by hook or by crook, it was going to spread, $5 a gallon was going to spread across the country. So you can stick your head in the sand. You say, Ollie, Ollie, oxen, I don't want to hear that. Everything's Alice in Wonderland. Cookies and ice cream. But that is reality. 50 to 60 cents a gallon across the country. Gasoline has went up since January 20th. Across the board. Again, and we took the Burke bats here in California. Oh yeah, you dummies out there, you're paying $3 a gallon, ha ha ha. We're only paying $1.50, $2 a gallon. Yeah. Well, how do you like it now? Again, and all that. Again, it's going to be, you might have loved Trump, hated Trump. Heck, I didn't agree with everything or the way he did things, but he had us on the right track overall. We're systematically destroying that. I'm going to be very curious to see what he comes up with on a speech in Florida at the CPAC convention, which